Hi, my name's Tola K, and I'm the author of the best-selling Survival Guide series, which is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks. And this is the fifth in a series of instructional films. And today I'm going to talk about iOS5, which is the new operating system that was released for the iPad 2. And while there were over 200 new features, I'd like to just point out the most important ones to you, just to avoid the clutter and make it easier for you. Alright, let's begin. While some of the new features I'm going to talk about are available on most Apple devices, there's one that's actually exclusive to the iPad 2, and that's multitasking gestures. Now, to turn on multitasking gestures, we're going to go to Settings, and then touch General, and then we're going to touch a switch right here at the bottom next to multitasking gestures. We turn it on. Now what this does is now you can use 4 fingers to switch between applications. So I'm going to scroll this way, and it's going to switch to my Reminders app. Keep going, goes to my Photos, goes to my Mail, and so on and so forth. You can also use all 5 fingers to go to the home screen, and you pinch to do that. So I'm going to put my hand on here like this, pinch, and it returns to the home screen. What you can also do is make the multitasking bar appear at the bottom. And to do that, you hold the screen down with 4 fingers and just drag up. And similarly, just drag down to make the bar disappear. And that is how you use multitasking gestures in iOS 5. One new feature in iOS 5 is the way in which notifications arrive on the iPad 2. Now, when a new notification arrives, it's actually going to show up right up here in the banner instead of interrupting you. It's just going to show up just like that. And you can always drag it down, and it'll be right at the top here. And you can touch it, and it will go to the app that notified you. Now, sometimes a notification will appear when your screen is still locked. And in that case, the notification will actually look like this. And to go directly to the application, you can just touch the icon and drag it to the right. Just kind of slide it to the right like this. Then the iPad will automatically unlock itself and go to the application that notified you. What do you do if a notification popped up right in the banner here and you didn't touch it right away? Well, you can always touch and slide the notification bar down, and all of your recent notifications appear here in the notification center. You can touch one of them and it goes to the application that notified you. And that is how you view recent notifications. If a notification arrives and you don't touch it right away in the banner, don't worry. You can always access your recent notifications by touching the bar up here and then just sliding it down with your finger. And you can touch any of the recent notifications and it will bring you to the application that sent that notification. And that is how you view recent notifications in the notification center. Another great new feature in iOS 5 is iMessage, which is an app that allows you to send messages between your iPad 2 and another iMessage enabled Apple device. Now, before you can use iMessage, you need to turn it on. To do so, touch Settings and then touch Messages right here, and the Messages settings appear on the right. And just make sure that the switch next to iMessage at the top of the screen here is turned on. Also, anyone who's going to want to reach you on this iPad 2 will need to know this email that's right next to Receive At. And you can always add additional emails by touching Receive At and then touching Add Another Email. And you can type a new one, save it, and then people will be able to reach you at that email as well. And you will get messages on your iPad 2. To send a message using iMessage, touch the Messages icon, which looks like this, on the home screen. And when the iMessage application opens, you're going to want to touch this pen icon at the top here, right next to Messages. and it's going to allow you to enter either a phone number or an email right here in the field. And once you do that, you can touch the text field down here and type your message. Now I already have a conversation going here for demonstration purposes, and I'm going to type another message. So let's say what's up, and I can always attach a photo by touching this camera icon to the left of the text field. And then, for instance, I'm going to do choose existing and open my camera roll and attach this picture of a cat. I'll touch use, and the picture is attached. Now I'll have to touch send here, and the message is sent. And when you receive a message back from the person that you just messaged, it's actually going to look something like this. Cute kitten. And that is how you send and receive messages via iMessage on the iPad 2. Another new feature in iOS 5 is the to-do list, or as Apple calls it, reminders. To add a reminder for yourself, touch the reminders icon right here on the home screen, and then touch the plus button at the top right corner of the screen. And I'm going to type the name for the reminder, so we're just going to call it reminder, and then touch the hide keyboard button right here at the bottom right corner of the screen, and the reminder is created. Now I can add a notification so that the iPad will notify me when this reminder needs to be done, and I can do that by touching the reminder and then touching remind me. The default is never, so I'm going to touch that and touch this off switch, turn it on, and then touch this day, and then I'm going to pick a day when I want it to remind me and a time, and when I'm finished I'm going to touch the done button at the top right and then touch the done button again, and now the iPad will notify me the selected day and time. I can also delete any reminder by touching it and then touching delete and touching the delete button, and the reminder is deleted. I can also view any completed to-do items if I touch completed right here, and it shows me anything that has already been completed. And I can complete a reminder by touching this box so the check is added, and then the reminder is complete. And that is how you add reminders, edit reminders, and delete them on the iPad 2. As some of you may know, iOS 5 made it possible for iPhone users to access the camera right from their lock screen by pressing the home button twice and then touching the camera button. But you can't do that on the iPad. There are a couple of new features, however, that were provided with iOS 5 for the camera. I'd like to show you those. So we're going to touch the camera icon, and the camera will open. Now what they've added is a grid that can be turned on that helps you to align photos. To access it, touch the Options button at the top of the screen, and then touch this off switch, and the grid appears, and it will help you to take photos and to align them much better. And you can touch anywhere on the screen to make that menu disappear. And then the other feature they've added is that you can access the Photos app right from the camera. And to do that, I'm going to touch the screen and swipe to the right, and the Photos app appears, and you can look through your photos. And we're going to swipe back to the left to return to the camera at any time. And those are the new features for the camera in iOS 5. While we're on the topic of photos, I'd like to show you a few new features that were added that allow you to customize your photos. We're going to touch the Photos icon here at the bottom. Now the first feature that was added is the ability to perform some basic photo editing right on your iPad. I'm going to touch anywhere to make these menus appear, and then touch the Edit button, the leftmost here at the top right of the screen. And these editing options appear at the bottom of the screen. And you can rotate the photo, auto-enhance it, remove red eyes, or crop the photo. Now if we touch the Rotate button, we can rotate it by 90 degrees, up to 3 times here. We can also touch the Enhance button, which will automatically enhance the photo, which will improve colors, contrast, and the like. And if you'd like to keep the auto enhancement, you can touch this orange Save button at the top right, or to discard it, just touch the Cancel button, and the photo will go back to the way it was. I'm going to touch Edit again to show you the other options. You can also remove red eye. So after touching this button, you want to touch the two eyes that are red, and then touch Apply at the top right corner of the screen, and that will remove those red eyes. And the final editing option is Crop, which allows you to select which portion of the photo you'd like to use, and then just touch the bottom right corner here, and it allows you to select which part of the picture you really want to use, and then just touch this orange crop button at the right corner of the screen, and that will allow you to crop the photo. And those are all the editing options. What they've also added is the ability to create and edit albums right on your iPad. And to do so, I'm going to touch Cancel, and then return to the camera roll here. Now to create a new album, touch Edit, and then touch the New Album button at the top left, and it allows you to enter the title of the album. So I'm going to call it Vacation, for instance. And after I'm done, I'm going to touch Save. The album's created, and now it's allowing me to add whatever photos I want to this album. So I'm going to touch the photos, and these blue check marks will appear to signify that these photos were selected. And when I'm finished, I'm going to touch Done, and my new album called Vacation is created with the photos that I've added. Now I can always add more photos by opening the album and then touching this button at the very top right here, and then touch Add Photos, and it will allow me to add any photos I want to this. So let's say I want to add this photo as well. I'm going to touch Done, and the photo is added to my new album. I can also delete any albums I've created by touching Edit at the top right, and then touching this X at the top left of any album that is deletable. So as you could see, camera roll we cannot delete because that is there by default. So we're going to touch the X and then delete, and that deletes the album. And that is how you manage photos, edit them, and create new albums and edit the albums on your iPad too. In iOS 5, Apple made a few new changes to the Calendar app. I'm going to show you a couple of them. I'm going to touch the calendar at the top here. And what you can now do your events is you can change the date just by dragging the event right on the calendar. So if you touch and hold it for a second, you can actually drag it to another day or another time, and then just let go of the screen and the date and time is changed. You can also change the length of the event and when it starts. So if you drag the top, it's going to change the start time, and if you drag the bottom, it's going to change the end time. And this changes the length of the event. And those are the two new features in Calendar app in iOS 5. There were a few new changes also made to the Mail app in iOS 5. First of all, you can now delete emails in airplane mode, and you can also add bold, italics, or underline to your text, which is called rich text formatting. So I'm going to show you that. And touch the Mail icon here at the bottom, and then touch the text, and touch Select All, and then touch this button that looks like a right arrow, and touch the BIU button, and now I can bold, italicize, or underline my text, or do all three. And I can always remove one of them by touching the button again. You can also now customize the addresses that you're sending the email to by entering the address first, and then you can touch and hold the blue bubble and you can drag it to another field. And you can just drag email addresses like that. Another new feature in the Mail app is that you can now view the inbox while viewing a message just by dragging across the screen here to the right. So I drag across and I can view the inbox, drag back, and the inbox is hidden. And those are the new features in the Mail app in iOS 5. iOS 5 also introduced several new features for the Safari web browser. And let's take a look at those now. First of all, there's now tab browsing, which means that you can have several pages open at a time, and you can switch them just like that. Now to open a new tab, touch this plus button on the right side, and then you can enter a URL, so for instance msn.com, and then touch go, and it will navigate to that website. And now you have a new tab open. And you can always close this tab too by touching the X to the left of the title. Another new feature is that you can now touch the back button and it will show you the whole history of the websites that you've recently visited. And you can go immediately to the one that you just visited, or you can go to the first one in the history, and that will just make things a lot faster. Another great feature is the reader. Now what this does is if you're reading an article, so let's say on Wikipedia like this, and you'd like to read it without all the clutter, almost like a book, you can touch this reader button right in the URL field, and it will reformat it, make it nice and easy to read, and take out any extraneous things that may divert your attention. And you can also change the font size by touching this AA button on the top left here, and then you can touch the larger A to increase the font size, or the smaller A to decrease it. Now there's one more feature that I'd like to show you, and it's called private browsing, which allows you to browse without having the browser save any of the history. Now to do so, first you need to turn it on. To do that, touch Settings, and then touch Safari. Right here where you see private browsing, I'm going to touch this switch so that it turns on and asks you whether you want to keep the tabs you have open. So let's say I'm going to keep them. Now if you go back to Safari, I'm going to use that multitasking gesture, you'll see that the color actually changed to black, notifying you that you are in private browsing now. And those are all the new features in iOS 5 for the Safari web browser. There are several new keyboard features introduced in iOS 5. The first one is shortcuts. You can now actually type something like TTYL and have it expand automatically to talk to you later. But before you can use shortcuts, you need to set them up. To do so, touch Settings, and then touch General. Then we're going to scroll down and touch Keyboard. And as you can see, there's already one predefined shortcut here, OMW, which will expand to On My Way. And I'm going to touch Add New Shortcut, because I'd like to define a new one. And I'm going to type the phrase first. And I'd like to add the phrase, talk to you later. And then touch Optional here. And type TTYL. And touch the Save button. And the shortcut is saved. And I'm going to switch to the Notes app to demonstrate the shortcut. And type TTYL. And then when you hit the spacebar, it inserts the full shortcut. Another feature that is featured in iOS 5 is the emoji keyboard, which allows you to insert emoticons into your text. Now to do so, first you need to add the emoji keyboard, so we touch Settings, and then touch General, then touch Keyboard, and International Keyboards, and then touch Add New Keyboard. And we find emoji right in the list here, and the keyboard is added. And you can now insert emoticons right into text. So we're going to switch back to the Notes app here to demonstrate. To switch to your emoji keyboard, touch the globe icon here at the bottom, right to the left of the spacebar. And now you can see that you can insert any of these emoticons or symbols right into the text. Now, one thing to note is that you can only send these to people who use Apple devices that have iOS5. Otherwise, if you send it to, say, someone with an Android phone, they will not be able to view these icons. Finally, you can also move the keyboard now in iOS 5. First of all, you can drag the keyboard up and split it so that it's easier to type, and you can kind of type with your thumbs while holding the iPad upright. You can also leave the keyboard as is and just move it to a different part of the screen. So if you touch and hold this for a second, you get a menu that pops up. And if you just say undock, you can now just move the keyboard around as you wish. And then when you want to dock it back, you can do that. And those are all the new keyboard features in iOS 5. Those are all of the new iOS 5 features that I wanted to show you today. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. Or check out my survival guides on Barnes & Noble, iBooks, and Amazon. And the links to those are posted below. And these survival guides cover everything from e-readers to smartphones to tablets. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.